Okay, that's the beginning. So that's the beginning of history. That's how it starts. The Big Bang. Yeah, we were just talking about Monty Python. I'm actually pretty sure that like every weird history guy was like a huge Holy Grail fan as a kid, and just annoyed everyone by referencing Holy Grail all the time. That's like a type of nerd. That was just the Holy Grail nerd who just memorized like the entire thing and was just like coconuts, and then just gets beaten up. So we all carry that trauma. I think everyone listening to this knows that trauma.
And while they're getting beat up, they're saying, "I'm being repressed."
Yeah.
Help! I'm being.
It's like the class president. I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for class president.
It's like, shut up! It's 2007. You're gay. Yeah. God, I hate you. Yeah.
That movie's just so well directed too.
Oh yeah.
The music is great and the directing is great because Terry Gilliam co-directed it with Terry Jones, so Jones was there to kind of mitigate Terry Gilliam's creativity.
Yeah. But also, like, it kind of changes style each sketch. So like the one where like the really the super effeminate son, like it's like a soap opera, and then good shit. Funny. No, that was actually my first foray into history. What's your first foray into like liking?
My dad the only rated R movie we were allowed to watch as kids was Braveheart because my dad. My dad's like a Scotophile or whatever.
Oh hell yeah!
A Philo-Scot.
That's pretty rare because usually it's Anglophile.
Yeah, no, he's also an Anglophile, but more Scotland. Like he's gone.
Those are very conflicting files, though. It's like a pedophile and a guy who fucks old women. Like, not really the same.
Conflicting files.
Conflicting files. That's the name of the episode. Ooh. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Conflicting files. I think that's perfect. Yeah, he helps out at like the Scottish festival every year. He wears kilts and long woolen socks and shit.
Oh wow. Okay.
He's like a huge bald man, buff bald fella.
Sounds like a Scot.
Yeah. And I bully him.
Is his name MacBamey? Yeah. Your Bamey is MacBamey. Yeah. MacBamey.
We don't say MacBamey. We say the Scottish Bamey.
Yeah.
It's bad look.
There's like Welsh Bamey, but like no one can understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's like Beam.
The Welsh accent is really weirdly like similar to some African accents.
Wales is crazy.
Yeah.
Also, someone told me that the reason Wales has so many castles because it's like full of just beautiful castles, but it's because the Welsh were so rebellious the English had to like really repress the fuck out of them. Just they were just like, we'll just build a castle every 2 meters just to like get you guys to stop. They have a cool flag too. It's like the red line thing.
I guess it's CYMRU.
Camera. Camera is like a Welshman or like a comrade.
I thought it was like Cymru.
Yeah.
That's how it's pronounced, which is stupid.
I love it.
Cymru. Reminds me what you and some of the comics say coom all the time.
Oh, cooming. Yeah.
I don't know how that started.
I think it's like someone kept saying coonch, and then that kind of coon. Yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, this is. I would say that's pretty much how a language develops. Yeah, that's the Welsh do the same thing.
It's just a bunch of inside jokes that lead to.
That's probably it. I think that's how the first language was. It was a bunch of cavemen who like didn't know how to talk. Then a couple cavemen were like just making snide remarks, like, and then like they're all talking. And then some of the cavemen's like, "What are you guys talking about?" It's like nothing. It's just how dumb your rock is. Yeah.
Like he just comes in. He can't talk, so he just comes in with like pleading eyes, and the others pretend like they don't know how to talk, and they look at each other like. It's
like he doesn't even know how to say water. What an idiot.
The urge to reproduce is like the base human urge. The basis human urge, and prostitution's the oldest profession. So the first word must have been like vagina or something.
Oh yeah, probably definitely.
Yeah.
It was probably a guy just doing this with his hands, like the thing in whole gesture. And then like they were all like set and thought, like looked at the gaze at the stars for like a year, and then they came up with like the first word.
That's how they learned to like Bukowski, so they could get pussy.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, we are lucky that we can express our urges. That's good.
Yeah, that's such a lucky thing.
Honestly, like I feel like sometimes I channel that caveman when you're really sexting and your Neanderthal brain takes over and you're just like.
I know.
That's like that first caveman. It's cool.
Yeah. Just like his wife is out gathering when he's home hunting, and when she's home from gathering, he's out hunting, and they just like leave obscene messages carved into the straw. Like arrange the babies and lewd.
Oh my god, that's even worse. Like imagine someone carved a dick pic into your house, like just on the wall of your house.
Into the skulls of your enemies that you keep outside.
Like, oh come on, man. This is unsolicited. I didn't want.
They have like spikes that they keep the skulls of their enemies on. Someone comes over and vandalizes them.
That'd be so funny. Like someone in like ancient Egypt, this mailman comes like, I have a very unsolicited tablet for you, and then you look at it, it's just like a drawing of a dick. You're like, who sent this? God damn it! Yeah.
And then he points to a table and a guy with wine just holds
this is a message from that man over there. It's like a giant tablet.
Holds up some wine.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. What were we talking about? I forgot.
Nothing. We weren't talking about anything.
I forgot to even announce the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like a cold. It's the opposite of a cold. I don't know what it is.
Cold open.
Something open.
I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, that happened with Arash, and I'm Arash.
And then Max. And...
Yeah, this is our 5th episode. Thanks if you've been listening. Yeah, we're a month in. So actually, like, it's gonna be funny because if you watch the videos from week to week, you can probably see us change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, in 10 years, we'll just be like old historian guys.
We'll know everything by then. Yeah. And then our humor will have gotten stupider and stupider as our brains taken up by useless historical knowledge.
Oh, exactly. I mean, by that time, we just have like hard drives connected to us, and we're just like strapped to these chairs.
Yeah.
It's like we can only riff about history. Yeah. Man. But yeah, anyways, I forgot what we were going to talk about. Talking about Braveheart and Scots, and then like what was your first kind of thing into history? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because for me it was definitely like Monty Python, and earlier I would say it was Age of Empires.
Oh,
like, I think it was the first game I bought. So like I bought it in like the 90s, so long ago. But then I had like the jewel disc case.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it from like a PC store, which don't exist anymore. Yeah, and then I played it on our computer from Rent-A-Center, so that was a fun time.
The first like reading I liked was Dave Barry. Have you ever read Dave Barry?
Oh, like, as a kid? No, I never. No, I mean, as a kid, I was reading those like kids' history books where it's like illustrated.
I was reading he was like the first, other than Harry Potter, he was like the first books I got into.
Oh,
and he has a book about history, and it's just like made up fucking history. And it's the
best thing for a kid. It's just like Dad, why did the Nazis win World War II? And you're like, what?
It had some of the funniest things. It was like. And then the year 999, everyone was afraid of the Y1K disaster, which is where on tablets words would invert themselves. Otto, for instance, became Toot. And then later on, he was talking about the Tootman Empire.
Oh, that's funny. Good. No, honestly, for next episode, I found a bunch of my old like kids history books from like when I was like 2nd grade. We should just like go through them, like it's really funny. Oh man, yeah. No, it was really funny because in Age of Empires, like I had this friend from Turkey, and he was pissed that like they didn't have a Turkish civilization.
Mm.
I was like, haha, my civilization is older than yours. Like mine's in the game. Yeah. He was like, how come there's a Persia but there's no Turkey? I'm like, because you're a country that didn't exist back then. Yeah. It's Age of Empires 1. It's the ancient times.
You were just shepherds.
Yeah, you were just steppe people.
Steppe people, yeah.
You're an inferior race.
Yeah. So we should do a sketch about, this is my stepdad. It's a Mongol who comes in and just like...
Yeah. Oh, a stepdad. Yeah. He's because they always sound good on paper. They ride horses. They're active. They live on the land. They have a cool yurt. Yeah, but then you meet them in person, they're like genociding you,
yeah. It's like the cool dad, and then all of a sudden he's riding in on a horse, and just like killing your mom.
Oh, but what's that whole thing in like rom-coms when like the there's kind of like the main character who's a dad, and then like he's getting custody of his son for the weekend, and like the hot new stepdad comes in. He's like, "Hello, Frank. What are you doing this weekend?" But it's like a Mongol. Yeah. It's like, man, just ever since your mom married that Mongol, pretty annoying. Yeah, we were at Cheesecake Factory, and he declared it was part of the empire. Started killing everybody.
And his name's like Dave.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I hate Dave.
God, I hate Dave.
They all go out to, or Rich or something.
Yeah.
I hate Rich, and they all go out with Rich, and then he's like just annoying the whole time.
God, yeah. I mean, he's always riding around with like 1 or 1.2 million of his friends. It's just so annoying. Yeah. God, I hate him. It's like, what kind of restaurant can seat that many people? What an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. He's contaminating posterity.
Yeah. Yeah, he poisoned the water in the cafe. It was like weird. God, I hate that. Well, that'd be funny. Or yeah, a Mongol stepdad or like a Teutonic Crusader stepdad who's always on a crusade.
It would be like that scene in Holy Grail where John Cleese comes through and just kills everyone at the wedding.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what it would be. Yeah, it'd just be nuts. Oh my, no! I remember, like, do you remember playing like the first Assassin's Creed?
Oh
when, like,
yeah.
It would be funny when you were just walking, like minding your own business, and you just bump into a Teutonic knight, and you just have this like bloodlust to try to kill you. It was so hard.
It's so funny.
I love that game.
That's still the best one.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone talks shit on Assassin's Creed 1 because everyone says it's too long and like the missions are too repetitive. But I actually loved it. I thought it was great.
So good. The graphics are still great.
Yeah, it's like 2007. It still holds up. It was awesome. Yeah. Also, the horse riding was fun, especially when you went too close to a peasant and they would like fall off and be like, "Oi, come back here!" Like,
"Oi, come back here!" And the pickpocketing.
Oh my
God! I remember
yeah.
I was playing Oblivion at that time, and I had an argument with my cousin about which was better, Oblivion or Assassin's Creed.
Oblivion is pretty great.
It's so good. And then we were arguing about it. I was like, "Well, can you pickpocket people?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Really?" And so I started playing it.
Oh god.
Like, can you join a thieves guild? No, that's right, Chris.
Well, it's funny because like speaking of it, like I was reading actually this book, which I think I mentioned before, but it's called the Crusades Through Arab Eyes.
Oh.
But it's kind of cool because it's pretty much like the opposite take of the Crusades. Because pretty much like the Crusades at least in the West is like very Eurocentric, where it's like the Saracens are just this like homogenous group, and then the Europeans are going. But this is kind of interesting because like they had the exact same perspective but opposite. They were like, oh, we're this like diverse community, and these weird ass like foreigners are coming in and just. But no, it's funny because they had this whole thing about the assassins who they're actually a real group.
Yeah.
And
the Hashashin.
Yeah, the Hashashin, and it was called that because before they went to assassinate people, they would smoke hash, like hashish, and then go. Mm-hmm. And they were actually like really successful. They had, and I think the castle that's in Assassin's Creed 1 was a real keep that was outside of Jerusalem, which is pretty cool.
I remember there was a story about like. I think it was them who they were like holed up, and then they all had to commit suicide or something. Yeah, they
were very like devout to their cause. It was weird because I don't know, I forgot what sect they were. I think they were more towards Islam, but they were pretty much their own entities. Like they were killing everybody. It was pretty crazy. Yeah,
I'd like to read more about that.
No, it was funny too because like because people always like kind of. They pretty much think of like all the Muslims in that time as Arabs, but like the people who ruled most of Western Asia were actually Turks. They were like the Seljuk Turks. But it's like really funny because like the reason they didn't respond to the Crusades early enough was like they were all just bickering. There was like tons of infighting because it was all these like Turkish cousins and brothers just like stabbing each other and like killing each other. So like he would stab his brother, then his cousin would kill him, and then he would kill him. But then, because they were all beefing, like one of them knew the Crusaders were coming to the other guy's castle. He just didn't tell him because he hated him. So he was just like, "Fuck you, dude." But then all their infighting just caused them to just collapse, and then the Crusaders just like walked in.
I like that you're like he's killing him and he's killing him. They're all killing each other, so they're beefing.
Yeah,
that's beefing.
Oh man, but it definitely just it's just funny because like these people were rulers, but if they were alive now, they would just be like a bunch of balding Persian guys fighting outside of a nightclub. Like that personality. Yeah, like I'm glad those people don't have power anymore. But they're just like they got shorted on like one bottle of champagne, and then like they like grabbed some girl's back or something, creeped her out, and then they got kicked out of the club. Yeah, there's a bunch of 5'1" Persian guys just getting thrown out.
Did you hear about those like wars between? I think it was like steppe people. Those wars between like cattle farmers.
No. What?
Yeah, they were beefing.
Oh, they're beefing. Oh man.
I'm sorry.
They're beefing. Shepherds always shy because they're sheepish a little bit.
I wanted you to do when I do a jump joke, sometimes you go, oh. Like,
I was going to, but I had a worse one, so I didn't do that time. But, yeah.
I like that so much.
Oh no. Oh god. Yeah.
And you're like, your whole face moves back. Like, just in pure disgust.
Yeah, it's why we're good friends, because we really know when to like check each other. When we just suck. Yeah.
It is so funny. Or like, I've got a date, and you'll go, ooh.
We're just like a soundboard. I don't even know. Yeah, we don't even talk. We just grunts and stuff. Yeah. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
We should have. I do think we should have soundboards of like things we say all the time, so we don't have to say them.
Yeah. Actually, that was going to be the next installment of we have to somehow get a soundboard connected so we can like have history sounds.
Yeah.
Like some kind of instead of like an air raid siren, like a battle noise or something, like a catapult.
Press a button. It's like
yeah.
Just swords and screaming.
Honestly, warfare back then sounds shitty.
Yeah, we talked about.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
We talked about that a little bit last time when they would trebuchet like diseased animals over the walls.
Oh yeah, but even like a sword fight, like a very close combat sword fight.
Yeah,
just seems.
I imagine a lot of it was just like circling each other and be like,
yeah. Yeah, it sounds weird because like the armies is kind of like you're in this side or this side, then you just kind of like run towards each other. Then like you just pick a guy and then I don't know.
You just pick a guy.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. You just like then you kill that guy.
I bet it was a lot dirtier than shown in movies.
Oh,
just
definitely.
like I think the scene at the beginning of Lincoln. The Civil War scene where it's just really nasty, and then they're just like doing terrible, like jabbing each other's eyes with their hands and shit.
Oh, yeah,
one guy's trying to drown another guy in mud and like picking up and slamming him down over and over again.
Jesus,
it's just brutal and very up close, and I imagine that's way closer to.
Oh my god, yeah, because I remember like, there's a whole thing in like the Civil War when like they had this battle and people were like picnicking outside of it, and they're like, "Oh, a battle! That sounds fun."
A battle.
But then it was just like horrible, like really gruesome because people were just being torn apart by cannonballs.
Yeah, no, like people, like gentlemen would go watch wars.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Isn't this a lovely war?" And they'd like have tea on a hill and watch it.
The gentlemen who weren't fighting, like the kind of rich nobles who were like, "Oh, these dirty peasants are out there fighting."
They like seeing the beautiful uniforms.
Oh my god, yeah.
And the regiments just in lines and stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny, like the whole pre-modern war where it was just like a fun time.
Yeah.
It was just like, this made no sense. Yeah. People had these like insanely colorful uniforms because like camouflage wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Like you just walked into each other and stuff.
And then it got really messy and secret, and now it's like now it's really regimented and formed up again and secret.
Yeah, well, I was also going to say it was such a spectacle. Everything was so dramatic. Like, this is one beef I have with American history. Like, it's called the Boston Massacre. It was like 5 people got killed.
I know.
I was like, my entire like time in education, I've always been like, not a massacre. It's not a massacre.
Yeah.
Like Tiananmen Square, that's a massacre.
That's a tiff.
That's a tiff. Yeah, it's like it's not even a skirmish.
Yeah.
A skirmish.
A scrimmage.
It's a scrimmage.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's like a bad protest. Like, there's like that many people die in Chicago every weekend. Like, that's not even. Yeah. It's not even that bad. Also, like they have that famous painting of the Boston Massacre. It's just like a guy like with like a hurt knee and like a British soldier. Like it's like doesn't even look that bad. Not that. Yeah.
Also, Wounded Knee is not that terrifying a place. That doesn't sound that terrifying.
That's a set. It's funny because Wounded Knee is really sad, but Boston Massacre is not that bad.
I know.
Wounded Knee was like 10 times worse.
Yeah, Wounded Knee doesn't sound that bad. You're like really?
But it's like, oh my god, like Trail of Tears is actually pretty shitty.
Yeah, that's very shitty.
Yeah, but then like the Boston Tea Party was like, oh god, I hate it. Yeah.
The Trail of Tears. What, they just wept?
Yeah,
what
they
happened?
just wept.
That's just, I don't know. It's probably revisionism.
Oh man, that is
revisionism at work.
God.
Jesus.
No, like it's so funny how like I'm definitely not sure who was naming all these things in American history, but they were like definitely chose a team. They were like,
yeah. No, like things are still way shitty on the reservations. Like,
oh my god,
it's still like kind of internment campy.
It kind of is because like I was driving by one where like pretty much all the residents of this place have to like leave because there's no amenities there, so they have to like they can't go there in the daytime. It's just like horrible.
And there's a real racial bias against Native Americans. Like,
oh, for sure.
And nobody talks about that. I don't know why.
I seriously hate that like hack thing where it's like, well, we gave them casinos, so it's like that's not a fair trade.
Yeah, I mean, like like so many of this isn't funny, but just people should know about it.
Oh no, yeah.
Just like so many of the people who are sold into human trafficking are Native American women because nobody fucking looks for them.
Especially in Canada, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
like the like this that Trudeau guy, like he's he like just does not give a shit. He's just like
Yeah,
no...
he's a frat boy. He's probably
Actually, from what I've heard, Canada is almost worse currently, like treating the native people. Yeah,
God damn.
But they call them First Nation people there.
Yeah,
so it's, Also, what is it? They call America Turtle Island.
Yeah,
I've heard. I don't know.
Like the only
I'm probably very wrong.
There's a lot of good Native American literature, but the only person who like gets any press is Sherman Alexie, and he just got Me Too'd. So we need like another person who's in the mainstream because it's such a rich culture.
Who's the guy in World War II who sang with Johnny Cash?
I don't.
He was in like that Letters for Iwo Jima. That guy.
He had like a woman's name.
Yeah, the famous like, and then he was like super like mistreated after the war and like just had like a Ira Hayes.
Ira Hayes.
Yeah, that guy was sick.
Yeah.
No, also I kind of missed that era in country music when the country music was like super woke.
I know.
Like it was like really like it was just like very like folksy. Like he was like the white man come down, he take all their things. Yeah, it was like super woke. Yeah, he was like, if I had a gun, I'd go in the White House and kill Roosevelt. And like, holy shit, man, these guns are these guys are crazy. Like,
yeah,
like Woody Guthrie, all those people.
Yeah. I know, man.
I've been on the road. I've been killing G-Man all day. Like they just hated the federal government too. They just fucking hated them.
But back when libertarianism had a point,
it was cool. It was like much cooler.
Yeah.
What's funny because like in not America, everyone just calls libertarians anarcho-capitalists because that's just what it's really goofy. Then,
That's what Chomsky calls himself, isn't it?
I think so.
He's like an anarcho-syndicalist is what he said. I don't know what that means.
I think that one's like it's like a communalism thing where it's like you live in like small pockets of like communities.
Oh, yeah.
But like it's one of those things where it's like that'd be great, but like try convincing 6 billion people to do that. Yeah.
Once it gets into the really like the nitty-gritty of ideology like that, I'm just fucking I don't know anything.
It's like you have to have a plan. You can't just like flip a switch and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm communist now." Like you have to convince them.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why Marx said you gotta spill some blood. You just gotta kill some folks.
You gotta do some stuff.
Like we said last time.
That's true. Yes.
What did you want to talk about today?
Oh man, I actually had a bunch. Okay, I think, let me see. Okay, I had a whole bunch of intelligent notes. Oh, okay, wait, okay. Hold on. I think we already talked Mongols. Oh, I'm gonna talk about like because everyone talks about how great Rome is. Maybe we should just make America into like a Roman kind of democracy. Where it's like just really brutal, but like
I mean, Voltaire said that his ideal form of government would be a constitutional monarchy, a benevolent monarchy tempered by assassination.
Oh, so when people get too powerful or annoying, we just kill them off.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
You just like we don't need like a 2/3 majority in the Senate. Yeah. Just kill them.
Honestly, I think that if you enter the life of politics, you should be killable, and then it shouldn't be a bad thing to kill you. Like it should be like allowed. It should just be like, you know what, this so and so, this senator, he's been a really bad voting record. Yeah. I think we got to take him out. Yeah,
but you have to be able to like vote as a team. And then and then like get it to the bodyguards or something. Like you should have a group that votes on that, and then like they tell the bodyguards. The bodyguards are like, okay, we'll like leave him at this time, and then you can shoot him. It's like
in Goodfellas, they take you to like an empty room, like oh no, and then they kill you.
I think who was talking about? I think it was Louis who was on O1A, and he was talking about how silly that scene is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where he's like he goes in and he's like, "Oh, what?" And then
what is this?
And then his friends are like he's gone. And their career mafiosos like, "Oh, what do you mean he's gone?"
They don't know. Yeah. They're being coy about it. But also probably the same when they stabbed Caesar. He was like, "What?" Yeah, I mean the Et tu, Brute is literally like that Caesar being stabbed is literally what's his face, Joe Pesci being killed in Goodfellas.
Yes.
He walks in, people he knows just kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, come on.
Caesar being stabbed. He was stabbed 27 times.
Oh, yeah.
He was a member of the 27 Club. Oh.
Man, honestly, I mean, try getting blood out of a toga. That's hard. Yeah, not easy.
Everyone had to stab him a little bit, I guess, so that they could all take the blame for it.
Oh,
exactly. So they could spread the blame.
You know, the cops come in like, all right, fellas, what's happened here? It's like, we rolled the bathroom. We didn't see what happened. It's like, oh, you were in the bathroom, huh? Explain the sauce on your toga there, buddy.
We didn't see anything. Explain every inch of him having been stabbed. Explain.
But also, it'd be funny if they threw away the togas because they're covered in blood. So the cops come, everyone's naked in the forum. Everyone's like stripped naked. No. It's like, what are you guys doing? It's like, well, orgy. They're having an orgy. Then how'd he die? I don't know. Stabbed himself.
What's the old joke about a Roman feast? Don't wear your good sandals.
Oh yeah.
Because you're supposed to puke every so often, and then you're fucking everybody.
Oh man, it's funny because I was trying to read about stuff about like Rome and like how Rome was just going into Gaul and like just harassing all the people. But like pretty much everything I know about Rome and Gaul is from Asterix and Obelix, so that's pretty much still all I know.
Obelisks.
Yeah, Obelix. Yeah.
Obelix. What is Obelix?
Oh, did you not read those when you were a kid?
No.
So it's pretty much this comic where there's like this tiny guy named Asterix. And then there's these two Gauls, so it's him and Obelix. And then they had this like wizard shaman in their village. He has this like weird witch's brew that like when you drink it makes you super powered. So they just go around like punching Romans around. But then it's like really funny because there's one where they go to Londinium. And it's just like modern London in Roman. It's like really funny.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's pretty great. It's awesome.
There was a Roman city called Luvavum.
Luvavum? That's hard.
Luvavum.
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 Oh.
And I just thought that was silly.
Yeah, no, they're still finding Roman mosaics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the one where it's like the skeleton where he's just like, eat good and drink good wine? And it's like really weird. It's like a skeleton with like a martini glass. It's really strange. It's awesome.
I haven't seen that.
Nah, man.
Those mosaics are some of the most beautiful things, though.
Yeah, well, honestly, it's cool to me because you see this like a really well done art. Because in my head, in the past, like for some reason, I always think that life was just so hard to live that you just never had any time to enjoy it. But they kind of exceeded that as a civilization, where like they actually had leisure time.
Yeah.
Which I think that's an achievement if you can somehow get leisure time. Like that's how you know you've made it.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, the only people who wrote books were like men of leisure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you just have free time enough to write. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Like Edward Gibbon wrote in his Decline and Fall in the introduction that he said, I wanted to write more of this, but I didn't think I would have enough leisure hours. I mean, but I am a man of leisure, but I don't know.
Yeah, because most people were just like toiling in the fields.
Yeah. And
then they, like no peasant can write anything. He's just tired.
It's just weird that wasn't considered like an occupation. That was just what nobles did for fun.
Exactly.
Was that kind of work. That just like was their playtime.
Also, it's weird because like for some reason, like every old thinker, they were always into metaphysics.
Yeah.
Like what is metaphysics? Is that just like how the world
just
works?
Like beyond physics? I mean, that's just
yeah.
Like it's kind of like when ancient. This is how I understand it. I could be totally wrong, but like when ancient philosophers talk about like the world is made up of mostly fire and also earth, but mostly fire.
It's like like man revolves around the giant skull, and then like we all
like around the giant skull.
Oh man, no, it's really funny too because all those dudes, it's just like like so and so from the 1700s. It's like some stuffy guy with like a portrait. It's like he wrote about every topic: metaphysics, history, physics, nature, naturalism. And you're like, how does this guy fucking know this many things?
I mean, technically, like theology is metaphysical because it's not quite of the physical world. But like, I think like some psychological philosophy could be called metaphysical and
honestly, metaphysics should still be a major. You should be able to like major in metaphysics.
You should be.
It's like, what do you do? It's like I just contemplate. I do a lot of that.
Contemplate. I don't know. Beyond the physical world is all that means. So I guess that's pretty broad. There's probably a more professional definition of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much like back then. It was like having a communications degree.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, come on. You didn't do
I've been studying metaphysics. Oh, who was the Thales, I think, is the first like philosopher. Bertrand Russell said like Western philosophy begins with Thales and or Thalos, I can't remember, but he was
okay.
Yeah, he was super smart, and then everyone's like, well, if you're so smart, how come you're not rich? And then he like found a way to do like agrarian speculating and like just fucked everyone over and made a ton of money.
Oh damn!
And then
so he was just like engineering everything. Oh nice.
And then he like gave it away and said "fuck you," and then went back to thinking. He just like he like predicted an eclipse and freaked everybody out. And then
it's so funny because back then, like if people wronged you would spend like 10 years getting back at them. It was like a whole thing. Like it's like in like the what is it? Not the Count of Monte Cristo, the other one where it's like he was wronged like once, so then he spends like 15 years developing an entire persona and like taking over the kingdom just so he can like.
Oh, that sounds like Count of Monte Cristo. I don't think he takes over a kingdom. But
there's always that thing where like he's been gone for 10 years and then they open the saucer for dinner and it's like the head of their mom's head. They're like, oh my god! And he's like, see, gotcha.
I love stories like that. There should be modern stories like that.
That's the thing though, because now we have laws, so we can't like take revenge like we used to.
I mean, we can.
But back then you were people would praise you for it, like because like now if someone Count of Monte Cristo someone, they would get arrested, and the cops are like, all right, buddy, let's go, and he'd get like 90 years in jail. It's you can't. Yeah. Some murder should be allowed. I think that'd be cool, like a cool revenge murder. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Like can you still duel? Is that the thing?
Yeah, I guess you could.
No,
I don't think it ever happens. That'd be nice.
Like you just tell the cops like, okay, me and him are gonna duel. So
I was reading Mark Twain, and he has a funny essay about the differences between Russian and French styles of dueling.
Oh, I didn't even know there were styles of dueling.
Yeah, and then he was talking about the French style of dueling is where you get out huge swords and you don't stop until the other man is unrecognizably just destroyed by your sword. And then in French dueling, you wait until the other person like is nicked a little bit by your sword, and then you hug and cry and praise each other's bravery.
Jesus, people just have no respect for the French.
I know.
That sounds like 1850.
He hated the French, Mark Twain.
So funny.
He's like, he was talking about, what was he saying? He was like, accusing somebody of something they hadn't done on no evidence is un-American. It is un-English. It is French.
Well, also it's like back then, people just thought the French were pussies. Like,
I know.
Just hate them. Yeah.
I just like, thought they were
the second one of them was nicked. Yeah.
Yeah, the second one of them is nicked. They hug each other, fall all over each other with embraces and cry and praise each other's bravery. Is what he said.
But no, it was really funny. Like speaking of duels, like, also I studied computer science. But then, so like we studied like tons of algorithms and formulas, and so like it was really interesting because pretty much every mathematician back in the day, they were just degenerate gamblers because like it's what they used to like win, like probability. It's all from gambling.
Yeah.
And so like they were all gamblers and drinkers, and there was this, like most of them would have like there was one guy, I think it was Fermat or something like that, where like he had some theorem and he wrote it down just to, like. So he was supposed to duel some guy the next day, so he was like, "Oh shit, I have a great idea. I'll write it down." And he got shot and killed.
Yeah.
But then they found it, and like it still doesn't make sense. And so he was onto something, and no one knows what he was talking about.
Oh shit.
Like,
That's so funny.
But like he just wrote it in like the margins of some book, and then he had got killed. It was like pretty funny.
There's a story about a Russian fella who was renowned as a great duelist, and he had never taken a lesson in fencing. And all he did was he just swung his sword around as hard as he could and just ran at the other person, and he always won. And then eventually,
he's button mashing.
Yeah, he's button mashing.
Yeah,
he's hack and slash.
Hack and slash.
Yeah, he and then eventually somebody beat him by just holding out their sword in front of them, and they got him through the mouth.
It's like a Three Stooges kill. He like mowed him, like a Moe and Larry thing. Where, like he like puts his fingers out, like he just pokes him in the eyes.
Yeah,
Jesus.
That's basically what happened. He just held his sword out like that.
That's so
and, like just right in front of him.
That guy is just didn't see the block.
I know.
That's so funny. Oh man. Well, also people just duel over the dumbest shit. Like people would duel over like with some courtesan.
I know.
You'd be like, she likes my poem better, bro, and then they would like duel.
Oh, yeah. The emperor. There was a courtesan who had slept with both Napoleon and his eventual ouster as best general of the time, the Duke of Wellington.
Oh.
And she was asked who was the better fucker. And
My God.
She was like, Duke of Wellington by far. He's much manlier, more forceful fucker.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Like in those words? Or...
She said more forceful, I know.
Wow.
She liked the force.
That's so
of it,
like if you were Napoleon and you heard that, you'd be so like depressed.
I bet. And I think she was asked like after he was defeated and shit. That's when it became interesting that she had fucked both guys.
Well, it sucks too because he was exiled to that island, which he probably just jerked off on forever.
I know.
Yeah. I know. God, that's also a shitty way. Like back then, they would just like find some remote island and just send you there.
There's like a movie I haven't seen in a long time with Ian Holm, or Ian Holm played. You know Ian Holm?
Maybe.
Bilbo Baggins in Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, of course.
He plays Napoleon, and then he's like exiled.
He's a good Napoleon. That's a good cast. Yeah.
He's exiled to an island, but on that island there are a bunch of crazy people, and some of them think they're Napoleon, and then they
That's hilarious.
They don't believe him that he's Napoleon. And I can't remember what it was, but I remember being fascinated with it as a kid.
Someone should make one of those with Hitler, where like they exile Hitler and everyone thinks they're Hitler. No, I am Adolf.
No, I am Hitler.
No, I am Hitler.
No, it is me.
It is me. I am Hitler.
This person is no Hitler. He is handsome, but he is no Hitler.
He is no Hitler. Oh man.
And Napoleon was such an interesting man. People said that he could just command a room with his eyes. He just had these bright, intense eyes.
Damn.
And he had just this intensity of he just had this vitality about him.
He's one of those special people in his like. Honestly, I think it like to be one of those guys is so rare. Mm-hmm. That, like you're just destined to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Like no one who has that Napoleon skill will ever be like a manager of like a Verizon store. Like you're not gonna. They always aim for greater things.
I know.
It's like, man, my fucking Jim, who was the middle management of my job, he just has this commanding stare.
Yeah.
He just walks in.
People said
that guy will just become a Napoleon. That's
people say that about Putin now.
Yes.
People said that about Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And they said also Lincoln's just height added a lot to that.
Yeah, because who was above 6 feet back then? It was so rare.
Yeah,
because people were so malnourished. No one could be tall.
And he was the tallest man. I guess women hit on him all the time, even after he was married. And then his wife was, he was
a fairly young president too. Was he 40s?
Yeah, maybe.
He's always depicted with like gray, like black hair. Like he wasn't really gray. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But I don't know.
I mean, he went gray later. The last picture of him, there's like a photograph of him, and he's like an old man. And his hair is gray, and it's like the photos of Obama after office.
Oh, those are so funny. Where it's like he aged like 1 billion years.
Yeah,
it was funny because now Obama's actually gone back down. Like he actually looks younger than when he was in 2016.
What if Obama has like the fountain of youth somewhere? Yeah. Just like sips from it. And he's a handsome fella. Definitely the handsomest president we've ever had.
Wait, Lincoln or Obama?
Obama.
That's true, yeah.
Obama.
I would say Lincoln's pretty dashing. Van Buren, as controversial as he is, pretty
Lincoln's
hot.
supposed to be like renowned for his ugliness.
Really?
Yeah,
but back then the portrait painters did a lot of work.
They did.
I remember. I forgot. I think in high school someone told me like. There was some president who because they all drank so much, they all had that like weird like rosacea. Yeah. When you get like the flushing of your face, like permanent flush.
Rosacea is like little red bumps too, I think.
Yeah, and what's it called? Like the drunkard's nose when they get that red nose. So like I forgot which president had it. He had like really bad, and he would make his painters like not put it in. So
wow.
They altered his paintings so he would look more.
It could have been. It could have been Washington because he was supposed to have been like the ugliest man.
Oh, he had fucking wooden teeth.
Yeah, and he is supposed to have a huge ass too, just this giant ass.
He looks like Trump.
They never talked about it, but like wooden teeth, pockmarked face, like weak jaw, giant ass, like really big, strangely big ass.
Jesus, but it's like 1790. So you can blame the guy.
And he got rich by marrying the richest woman in America.
Damn.
Yeah, he just was a charmer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like once you're a revolutionary general, that's I mean, Fidel Castro. You look at him; he wasn't hot. He was uglier than Che.
Was he? I think he had like a sparkly-eyed,
a little bit more of a
kind of boyish, handsome.
Well, it's really funny because I was watching. I saw those photos of young Lenin and young Stalin. Stalin was really hot. Lenin was an ugly motherfucker. Yeah. Oh my god.
Stalin, god damn.
Very hot.
He also he was exiled to Siberia a few times and kept impregnating the same like 13-year-old.
Jesus Christ. Christ.
Yeah, like
God.
every time he would go impregnate the same lady, and then every time he got exiled.
Oh my god. He's like, God, that whole age difference thing in history is so weird.
I know.
Because it's a thing, but like it was back then. I don't know if that was bad back then or what was the consensus. I don't know.
I think we only heard about like the greatest people. And I think a lot of them may have been narcissists, and a lot of those narcissists just were like, I'm the biggest, best person. They wanted somebody they could totally lord over because they were huge narcississists. Maybe that had something to do with it. It's
funny because from what I've heard, people would marry young back then, but they wouldn't actually like have relations until later. Because marriage was such a like marriage was not even like a love thing. It was just like a political thing where like we're two families joining estates and now we get deals and money and cattle and shit. Yeah, so it was all for like that kind of stuff. Because people always like criticize like Islam. For, I used to have a joke about this where like they criticize Islam because like what is it? Muhammad's wife was like really young. Yeah, but like that was like a political marriage, not like where like Muhammad and Aisha weren't fucking eloping off to Vegas and like it wasn't like that. Like it's like come on. God. It's like it was a different time. Like which I think different time. It sounds like it sounds as if we're giving them a pass and apologizing for them. We're not. We're saying if they were live now, I would totally criticize them. But like it was back then. It was different.
There's oh my god. Yeah, it is fucked up.
So I know those are rants, but
there's so many just pedophiles that we esteem. Like people say, well, I would never consume art by this person because they were a bad person. But then you can't watch like Alice in Wonderland or read it because that guy was one of the worst people of the time. Lewis Carroll.
Oh, was he?
He was a child pornographer. He would just like take pictures of young women and like develop them in his darkroom. And
oh wow, so a truly evil man.
Yeah, very very bad Jesus. Man. And he almost certainly did other shit.
Wait, Carroll wasn't. No, I was thinking C.S. Lewis. I was like, please tell me he's.
C.S. Lewis was just a repressed individual. He was
crazy as hell.
When he was a young man, I guess he fucked a lot, and then he felt so bad about it that he didn't screw for like the rest of his life.
Oh wow.
And then he like got married when he was old, and I don't think they even had sex because he was so messed up. And then she died of cancer, and then he wrote a beautiful book, A Grief Observed, which everyone should read.
Well, that's a heavy life.
Yeah, I mean that book is one of the most beautiful things because you can just feel his sadness on every page. Just his pain is so. He was such a good writer, and he was such a good analogizer. Like he said. People keep telling me I will get past it, but you get past it as much as you get past an amputation. You heal that much.
Oh, from losing a loved one?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like, you heal as much as you heal.
What year was he alive again? Like, he was early 20th century?
Oh, yeah, like
20s to the...
Something like that. Like, he was contemporary with Tolkien.
Oh, okay.
There's an interesting story about Tolkien.
That's interesting.
Tolkien didn't want to release Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But C.S. Lewis said, "No, this is really good. You should send it out." And then he wrote Chronicles of Narnia and really wanted to release it. And Tolkien was like, "This is shit. Don't release this."
He didn't return the favor. He was just like, "Nah, man, this is not good.
This is trash."
Also, dude, I mean. I would say if you were Tolkien and you wrote Lord of the Rings and you read those books, you'd be like, my shit's better. Like, I'm way better. Yeah, it's like, mine's way better.
What, you didn't make up a whole language?
I literally wrote, Elvish, and like it relates to World War One. It's this whole metaphor. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, Tolkien also called his books entertainments. He's like, they don't represent anything. They're just.
Oh my god! So it's literally like Marvel movies almost. Yeah. Like you're like, it's just a fun time. Yeah. No, it's funny because I remember in college I was taking this medieval literature and film class, and then we read Tolkien's Beowulf translation because apparently it's like one of the most famous ones, and like he was like his translation skills were like really good. Yeah. For Old English, but yeah, it was fun.
I'd love to read that.
We also watched so many shitty medieval movies, like it was always these like 80s like sword and sorcery movies that were like. It's so bad. Like every sword and sorcery movie, it's like this young guy with like long dark hair, like really ripped, a plastic sword, and then like a loincloth, and he just like runs around. And then so bad. Yeah.
I just like
those movies.
if somebody had a loincloth and got an erection, then you could see their balls.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep thinking about that.
Yeah, it's a loincloth, but only for one setting.
Yeah.
Like the guys who sew those loincloths don't no one like accounts for your erection. They're like, all right, so I think these measurements are good. So could you just get hard really quick, make sure this still covers it? Like, yeah,
There should be pants with a condom inbuilt.
Oh.
So when you got an erection, it just like went up through the condom. Not sure. Anyway.
No, but then
History.
you're protected all the time.
You're protected all the time, and then you just like change it every few times.
That just sounds like something people would have, because people back then changed their underwear every like 6 months.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I've got my cod piece on for the year. Yeah.
I wonder whether the condoms they made out of like lamb skin had a little reservoir at the tip.
I don't know. Were they good enough engineers to even know about? I don't know.
I don't know. There were like supposed to be condoms that were like actual bags, and you tied them up with a string at the base of your penis. Like there was like a drawstring, and you would tie it up.
Jesus.
And they were like silk or something.
Oh, I see. Okay, so like the condoms just looked like one of those like dice bags from in like D&D.
Yeah.
It was like with a drawstring. Yeah.
Or the sort of bag you keep a vibrator in.
Yeah. Also the kind of bag that like nobles would keep their coins in, like one of those like pouches. Yeah.
That's just they just repurposed.
Yeah, just repurpose it. Like, oh, is this your condom or your money bag? Like, which one is this? Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah.
I think somebody getting an erection with a loincloth and you being able to see their balls is so funny. Yeah. Oh
man.
Anyway, yeah, history.
Yeah, history.
History.
Okay. Yeah, no, sorry. I just started school again, so I've not had a lot of time to read stuff. But next week I will.
I just wanted to talk about Voltaire more because we didn't get anywhere.
Oh yeah, should we go on another Voltaire?
On another Voltaire.
A Voltaire.
Did we already make that joke last episode?
I don't think we did. Well, also his first name was Vol, which is like a rodent. Voltaire. Yeah.
That was his pen name. Yeah. I mean, they're different. There's so many ideas of why he chose the name Voltaire. Nobody actually knows. They think it's like an anagram of part of his name plus like the initials for the younger.
I totally get it though, because like sometimes like on like you like make a new email and you have to make a new username and you just don't know what to think. So you're like, all right, let's do this. But then you're like stuck with it, so you can't change it.
Yeah, man.
But I understand.
Yeah. The other idea was that as a kid he was called the Volontaire or something, which means the persistent one.
Wait, Voltaire? Is that related to like volunteer? Is that like
I don't think so.
The etymology, whatever?
I don't know, but it could be.
That's interesting.
But yeah, he did that, and then somebody was like, some noble he shouldn't have pissed off was making fun of him for changing his name at a party, and then he said, well, my name will live on and yours will accrue scandals or something like that. Nice. And then he was sent to the Bastille for that for like 11 months. And then another time he was at a party, and then
God, these French parties suck ass.
I know. They did when Voltaire was around.
Yeah, like pretty much like you go there for a fun time. You just get dissed.
I know.
It sucks. Yeah.
And then a guy said, "Who is the young man who talks so loud?" And he was like the highest official.
Yeah.
At the time, and then Voltaire said, "It is the man who earns his name and does not have it given to him by birth." And then after the party, the guy had a bunch of ruffians just beat the shit out of him.
God damn.
And then he said, "Don't hit his head. Something good may come out of that yet."
Wow.
Yeah, and then Will Durant said something like, "He was too powerful to be insulted by a mere genius."
Yeah, because like being intellectual back then didn't mean shit.
No.
It was kind of...
I mean, that was what was sexy back then, apparently. I mean,
being an intellectual.
Yeah, being an intellectual, but like they were pesky because there were so many. They were just considered pesky a lot.
Well, yeah, because they like back then they always got like into tons of trouble because they would write some political treatise and it would like start making the rounds. Yeah, and everyone's like, "Hey, this guy's got some ideas." Then people in power would be like, "Hey, man, shut the fuck up! You're ruining a good thing right here." Yeah.
Voltaire did that like a few times where he wrote.
Because you mentioned this is French Revolution, pre-French Revolution.
Yeah, no, he was kind of the grandfather of the French Revolution.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
And he but he wrote like. he kept getting sent to the Bastille, so eventually he was locked up and he was supposed to be there for a long time, but then the jailer just thought he was so funny, and then he just like let him go with a pension, and then he was like, yeah, we'll give you some money every so often, you're free to go, and then people were pissed about that, so Voltaire said, I'll just go to England. Everyone's like, yeah, go to England.
That was a big deal also back then, because Marx did the same thing where he would stay in one country, piss everyone off, move to the next country, and then he moved to England. And it was funny because then in England, it's kind of where he like was like really observing the working class and stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but it's pretty funny. Like he would just make everyone mad, and he would get forced out. And, like, but he had so many fans that like they couldn't kill him, so he could kind of just like
yeah.
No,
Marx was supposed to be just a grumpy asshole too. A grumpy fucking asshole.
Dude, it's fucked up because like I remember I read somewhere where like he had to sell his pants just to buy pen and paper to write his things, and then his daughter died, and they couldn't even afford to like get the body out of the house. And like his kids were dying, and like he was like really they're all sick and like really fucking sad.
So many great people in history were that way. Like Socrates was supposed to have like abandoned his family and never paid them money or anything, and just neglected them. All sorts of people like that, just like had baby mamas and never gave money to them.
It's pretty funny because I think that personality just has persisted. Like celebrities now are just shitty to their kids.
Yeah,
they're not good dads.
Absolutely,
they just suck ass, but they're talented.
That's why I'm fascinated by like huge, very well admired people who are good parents and shit.
Right.
I'm just fascinated by.
I'm trying to name some because they're so rare. Like just people who weren't dicks in history.
Like Harrison Ford seems like he'd be a good dad. I think
you really love Harrison Ford.
I love him so much.
NASA's been on a Harrison Ford thing for like 2 weeks. Like just anytime all the comedians are hanging out, he's like, we should just go watch a Harrison Ford movie.
Yeah, we should watch it. Yeah. And then I like watching his interviews with people and like analyzing his his demeanor. But,
oh man, because we were talking about how cool it would be just be one of those like soft spoken but cocksure guys.
Yeah.
Like a Clint Eastwood or a Harrison Ford.
Well, you don't have to say anything. You just walk in a room and you don't say anything. You just
it's the
raise your eyebrows.
Which is that's the Napoleon thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. God, because I was watching some Kurosawa like samurai movie. I would love to just be like the lone samurai guy, where he's like so sure of himself, he just like walks into a saloon, like a tavern, and everyone's like, "Who is this? The lone wanderer?" And then like you just get a drink by yourself, sitting in the corner, and two like rapscallions come and like harass you, and then you like draw your sword and cut both of them in half, and then like. Oh, God, it'd be so cool. But I'm so neurotic, I could never be that.
I know.
I'll never be that guy. It's too late. I'm 26. It's
already
baked in. Yeah.
I think we both have to write a screenplay, like just about that, because I have that admiration too.
Like literally, I play like video games like Mountain Blade just so I can feel like a really cool commander. Because I'm like, yes, I got 100 guys in my army. I'm a respected general across the lands.
I'm even worse because I put it on like easy mode.
Oh, me too. No, I play it just for the role play, just so I can imagine. Yeah.
And then I'm like unstoppable. Like I've never lost a battle in Mountain Blade.
Oh man. Also, if you're listening to this and you have not played Mountain Blade Warband, you have to play it.
Go play it.
It's the greatest game.
It is.
Actually, we were talking about courtesans. Like I had the worst betrayal because there was this courtesan where I was like going out. I was visiting her castle. I was reading her poems. We were really close. I was gonna marry her. Then she married this other dude. And then me and him went into combat, and I arrested him and put him in jail forever. So just out of jokes. Yeah.
So when they try to ransom people, you just say no every time?
Yeah, I just say no.
Is that what you do?
Oh, it's so great because at this point I've imprisoned every single lord. So now there's like nobody riding anymore. There's no armies. It's just me.
I kept screwing up, and then I kept trying to get more lords, and then the other lords would get pissed and leave me and take my castles. And
oh my god, it's so funny.
It's so crazy. I like got frustrated and just deleted that game and started over. Yeah, because I got so pissed.
No, I have so many characters. It's funny because like it's so open ended that you can just fuck your life up in like a day and never recover.
I know.
It's so great. Yeah,
that's so funny.
Oh man, yeah, that game like Civilization. It's just for me to posture as like a important person. I love it. Yeah.
So Voltaire, he went to England, and then one of the books that pissed everybody off was Letters from England, where he said, like, French society's shit, English society's better because their kind of monarchy makes it so that they're not at the whim of the censors all the time, and they can pretty much say what they want to. And then he decided not to publish that, but it was circulating, like, underground.
Yeah.
There were, like, a few copies circulating underground, and then some guy just decided to publish it without Voltaire's consent.
Oh, shit.
And then made a ton of money, and then Voltaire, like, everyone was mad at Voltaire again, so he had to leave again. But this time this time he made friends with the monarch of Russia, and I can't remember who that was at the time, but he was supposed to be. So when this monarch was a young man, he sent Voltaire letters that said, "I like your adherence to peace, and I think everyone should be pacifist." And then Voltaire like wept because this boy was going to become ruler at some point, and then he was a peace like person. And then as soon as he became ruler, he like killed a fuck ton of people.
Oh damn. Oh, okay.
and then Voltaire just didn't say anything about it because he was a big fan of Voltaire still.
Oh, that it's so cringe. It's like if someone came up to you after a show and was like, "Dude, I love your stuff. That was awesome," and they were in like a triple homicide. Later.
I know.
You're like, ew.
And then they're just like a bad guy, or they've been Me Too'd or something, but you don't say anything. They're like, I still love your shit. Like, yeah, keep listening, man.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. No, yeah, I really appreciate it. Just keep it on the down low.
Keep it on the down low that you like. Yeah. It'd be hard to be polite to that kind of person, but I guess if they're a monarch, what can you do?
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, so the second time everyone was pissed at him, I guess it was the manyth time, but he went to Russia, and then they were just like, that was kind of a mecca for learned people, because
Russia was like a nice safe spot.
Yeah, the palace there, and he just went there and was part of the court because he had always talked about being part of a society of learned people and witty people. And the Russian monarch was supposed to be quite a wit himself. And then Voltaire did something. He like invested in some business that was banned by the monarch, and so he got pissed, and he was supposed to have said to somebody, some guy like Voltaire is just fun for me. Like after I'm done with him, after I'm done with the orange, I'll throw away the rind or something like that.
So his writing persona was like there's an act to him, like, or oh sorry, you mean the
so
monarch.
The monarch said,
the monarch.
Yeah,
oh shit.
Monarch said about
so the monarch went from being a fan to just kind of being this like weird abusive.
He just had Voltaire around because he was fun, and then Voltaire like
that's horrible.
The guy the monarch told about it didn't like Voltaire, so he told Voltaire what the monarch said. And then he like secretly didn't like Voltaire, and then he wanted to gain favor or something, so he like tried to get him to leave by telling him what the monarch actually thought of him. And then Voltaire was just sad and just like was around for a while, and then they
that kind of sucks because like first they invite you, you're super exciting, but then you're just kind of this like this. Oh, that's horrible. Yeah,
and then he just pissed him off. And
that would bring my self-esteem down. That would be sad.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially if everybody told you were basically a genius for your whole life, and then that happened.
It's like, oh, you're actually just this rich guy's toy. He just likes hanging out. Yeah.
And that's like the only person you've ever wanted to impress your whole life, and then he doesn't like you. So yeah, he like left, and at some point, I don't remember when this was, but he met this married woman. Then she wasn't in love with her husband, and he wasn't in love with her or something. And then at the time, that was fine for you to just like, it was called elopement, but it wasn't marrying secretly. Like he just went.
It's not adultery.
I mean, it was adultery. It was just called elopement if you like were living with a person who was married.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But yeah, they lived together for a while, and then they were like soulmates and did scientific experiments together.
Oh shit!
And then people would come to that chateau to have fun because they were both the wittiest people. And then Voltaire would write these plays, and he would act in his own plays and have they were supposed to be like really stupid some of the time.
He was just having fun house parties.
Yeah, he was just having a good time.
That's kind of. This was back in France.
Yeah,
we went back. Okay. So,
back to France, and then I mean, I don't know whether this was before or after.
What a career, Jesus.
Yeah. And people would just come to see him act in his plays and be a goofball because he was supposed to be just this goofy man. And he said, if one cannot be a fool, then life is not worth living, or something like that. And he said, dumb humor is great humor, basically.
Hell yeah.
It's okay to be dumb.
It's funny because he kind of went full circle. He was like, I'm going to be this like genius, this very big intellectual guy. I'm going to influence everybody. But he's just back to like his little chateau playing charades.
He was that same person the whole time. He was this goofy, witty man, and then later he was this goofy, witty man.
That's cool.
He reminds me of Conan a little bit.
Actually, you're thinking of Conan like going to Russia,
Yeah,
and just like hanging out, yeah, just doing his like weird dance.
yeah. Like Conan's
Yeah.
an extremely learned man and very witty, and then he's also just dumb, just this goofy dumbass.
Oh, actually, no. There should be a Candide movie with.
There
Conan.
should.
That'd be hilarious. A Candide movie would be nuts. That'd be
It
crazy.
would.
Like a National Lampoon's Candide. Yeah.
That'd be so funny. Chevy Chase is Pangloss the philosopher.
Oh yeah, Pangloss.
And then yeah, like old Chevy Chase, and then Conan O'Brien as Candide. Like, no, this is the best of all possible worlds. Everything will turn out fine. And then, yeah, so everyone went to visit him, and then eventually they had a falling out, and then I think the stuff with Russia happened after that, and then he wrote all kinds of plays, and some were failures, and then some were successes, and everyone's like, oh, Voltaire's washed up, but then he had this huge success with this play. And then actually, Candide was one of his much later works.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then, it's supposed to be one of the best short stories of all time. He wrote it in 3 days. And he was supposed to have had like 40 to 60 cups of coffee a day. And that's how he fueled all his creativity.
Also, cups of coffee were much harder to make back then.
Yeah.
That's even more impressive.
And more expensive.
Yeah.
And
like he wasn't at a Starbucks in the corner.
Oh, I haven't talked about how he made his money. Like, he made all his money because he there was a lottery in France.
Yeah.
And then they just were dumb about it, and he and his friend found out that the math didn't add up, and then they just bought all the tickets and then made a killing every time they did the lottery. And then eventually the government caught on, and they stopped it. They were like, oh, there's so many winners of this. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then they like they found out that they were all Voltaire.
That's so funny. What an asshole. He just didn't tell anybody.
I know.
Just like, yeah.
And then they just stopped doing the lottery, but by then Voltaire was so fucking filthy rich, and he never had to worry about anything forever.
God. See, I'm also jealous of that, because back then there were only a couple smart guys, so you could really just take advantage. It's like I like you or I could never get do that kind of scam. That's hilarious.
That's so
What
funny.
an ass.
And then the people who were smart back then had so much time to be smart, so they were smart about everything.
Yeah.
Renaissance people,
Exactly. I mean, like back to the caveman, people would just contemplate all day. Like you just walk in, like just scratching their cheek and just kind of like, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, did you ever think that maybe we revolve the sun? And someone's like, oh my god, he's on to one. He's got another one. Yeah.
That should be the name of our podcast, huh? With Max and Arash. With Max and Arash.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so he got all his money that way, kind of like Shakespeare, where he got his money just a weird way. Like Shakespeare just bought houses.
Well, he had like Dairy Queens and like car washes and shit. Yeah, it just seems like a local. No, like they're like those basketball players who retire and just have like weird franchises and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know what else happened. Man. So Voltaire, and then eventually Voltaire grew old, and then he was a hypochondriac all his life.
That's so hard to do back then, though. Yeah, everything's filthy.
I know.
There's no antibacterial ways. It's like hand sanitizer. Yeah,
and he was just like afraid of being sick all his life. Always was in and out of doctors' offices. And then he like had gallstones, and I guess back then I read this somewhere.
Is gallstone a kidney stone?
No, it's different. I don't know how, but it's like in your gallbladder. And then they would like use pincers and like crack it through the skin, I guess. It was really bad, but
Jesus,
he had those. Horrible. And then he had like,
ew, that's disgusting.
I know. I think I read that somewhere.
God,
that they just pinch him through the skin. Voltaire wrote about it, but I think that's what he said.
That's disgusting. Jesus.
But and he had a bunch of sicknesses, but he lived so long. And he died at like 85 or 92 or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, and he was just this old ass man. Eventually, he was just like the ending of Candide is about like all this shit happens, and then he's like, "Is this the best of all possible worlds? No, but we must cultivate our garden."
Yeah.
And then
which is pretty much the most progressive thing you can say back then.
Yeah.
It's like, the world sucks. Let's just keep going.
And that's what Voltaire did. He just was an old man and cultivated his garden. He lived with his niece. Some said he was in love with his niece, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Just somehow everybody just has that one weird rumor. It's like, no one's unscathed.
And then
like,
Will Durant said he didn't have a wife, but he had a niece, which is better for a man of genius. and I don't know what that means, but
maybe they played chess a lot of them. I don't know.
Maybe
some wholesome activity.
I mean, he probably just took up less time. Is what he meant.
Oh, okay.
I bet that's probably what he meant.
Well, it's so hard to tell because people like those old historians use such like the weird discrete language that like you can never tell what they mean. He's someone historian. He's trying to say someone's gay, and he's just like, yes, he was a man behind many doors, and you're like, what does that mean? Like, just say it. Say he's gay. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And Wilderant was the best at that.
Yeah,
he was talking about a pope who I may have mentioned this last time, but it's really funny. He was talking about a pope who was willing to give aid to prostitutes, and he said he was willing to help women who were willing to seek a younger profession.
I love that one.
It's
a younger
so
profession.
And then with Voltaire, he said when he was a young man, he experimented with the commandments, which meant he just fucked around.
Oh, that's like you're kind of taking it a little. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. And then he had a lot about Voltaire to say.
Damn.
And, so Voltaire was a wild kid. He was the wittiest also, and he said things like, if God didn't exist, it would be necessary to invent him, which some people think was a blasphemous thing to say, but it wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be like, no, the world points to a divine intelligence so much that if there were not a God, we'd have to think there was one.
Yeah, no, it's funny when people twist those religious comments like that, because like Marx's really famous quote where it's like religion is like he said religion is the opiate of the masses, which it sounds like he's saying that like religion is this dumb thing that like it's the opiate of the masses. That means it's like a bad thing, but like what he meant was that, like that's what like the poor people drown their sorrows in they tell their like misgivings to God. That's like their way of like expressing their misfortunes is through that channel. So like people always like misinterpret that, which is annoying. So
it is, and I mean he said something like like religion is the flower in the chain that you wear around your neck, and then the point of becoming educated is to break the chain and pick the living flower.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty funny because not many philosophers have really shitted on religion. It's more like the institution that it has in society. That's like mostly it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Voltaire really hated religion.
Really?
He was a deist, and he thought there was a god, but he thought that God probably didn't have any...
The weird organized factor of it, where it's like, God didn't expect all these different sects and churches and...
Yeah, he'd be like, he was basically like, if there was a God, he wouldn't fucking care about us. You just made...
Yeah, exactly.
He just made the world and just left.
I think that's probably the most plausible thing,
Absolutely. I mean, then you get to talking about the fine-tuning of the universe and how if you, like, messed up how the universe is by a little tiny bit, there would have been absolutely no life or anything.
Exactly.
But then you start getting into the multiverse, and then there being very many universes, and those kind of evolving in a Darwinian way, and that makes sense that over how many infinites of time there have been, that there would be one world in which life would happen,
where everything works. And one world where like everything evolves the exact correct way and everything is it's like
absolutely.
Which is who knows? Yeah.
Do you believe in God, Arash?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be the podcast now. Yeah. What is truth?
What is truth?
God, that was the worst in like high school classes when like we were learning about philosophy and we would have a whole 2 weeks about truth. Yeah. It's so fucking bad.
It's annoying.
Some annoying kid would be like, well, what? But if that's truth, but I don't think it's truth, then is it truth? And the teacher was just going to kill themselves. I
went to a liberal arts charter school that was supposed to be discussion based, and that was all it was. And
why would you ever let high schoolers discuss anything?
I know. I fucking hated it so bad.
Yeah.
And I was just an asshole the whole time because I thought everyone was stupid.
Oh my god.
And then I got kicked out of shit. And then, but... Also, they voted me class president for some reason, and we had a senate in our school. We had a senate.
Ooh.
We had a class senators.
Would you guys do mock UN and stuff like that?
I don't know. Maybe we did.
Class senate.
I never went.
Did you all stab one kid at the end? Yeah. It's like he wanted to raise the lunch prices and you all killed him.
There was we did these simulations. There was one where every class was a country and ours was Great Britain, and then somebody voted this other kid prime minister, but the teacher was like God and got to pick the monarch, and I was the monarch. And then the prime minister wasn't doing shit because he was an idiot and slow, and then I went to And then I started going to classrooms who weren't enjoying the game that much, and making them protectorate to our country in exchange for them not having to play anymore.
So you were like kind of behind his back, like pulling the strings. Just
I
like
was
a rap student kind of.
I was, and then I like wouldn't communicate with him, and he'd be like, "So what are you doing?" And then I'd be like, "Well, I've done all this." And then there were classes that would like make money by making these Christmas decorations for the school, and then so I got a lot of them to become protectorate, and then so that we could all win at one point. And then there was another classroom, I think it was Russia, who was doing the same thing after I had the idea.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually we just had more points, and then I attacked them. and then we won, and then I like was gloating in the hall to a bunch of them, because there was like me who was doing all this, and then a bunch of them on the other side who was like, we have to do what Max is doing. And then I was just like, I won, bitches. I was such a dick about it, and like danced around.
But see, but it's that cunning. It's a shame that you're alive now. If this was a few hundred years ago, you could have actually done that in real life and actually killed a lot of people and then become king. So that kind of sucks.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's like it's wasted potential to me.
And they gave us like candy bars for winning, and they had to give candy bars for like a shit ton of classes because I made them all part of Great Britain.
Oh, because everyone's involved.
Yeah.
Was the teacher kind of angry with you? Like,
yeah. And then they gave me a really like tongue-in-cheek award. They gave me the Queen Victoria Award, which is a printout of a picture of Queen Victoria with Queen Victoria Award like sharpied under it.
Nice.
And then so that was that. But that was so fun.
Hell yeah.
That was one of my favorite memories. It's just such a fun time.
Just being a monarch for a day.
And I would like give speeches to classrooms, and I would join with us. And
oh, so you had a whole voice too.
Yeah. I had so much fun with it.
Hell yeah.
And then
days gone by.
Days gone by. Yeah. And Voltaire, old man. When he's super old, he's been exiled from Paris for a long time, so he learns he's really sick, and then he's like, I want to go to Paris before I die. And the doctor's like, no! And then he said, yeah, I'm going. So he got in his carriage, and he was just this old, bony, just rickety man, and he just like his bones are grinding together with every lurch of the carriage. Yeah. And then he eventually got there. Then he saw Paris and how it had changed, and he just had a beautiful emotional moment. And then he went to this friend of his. He went to this guy's house, and then he was laid up and he was about to die. But when he was being brought there, just huge crowds were attending his carriage, and then he was getting all the flowers were being thrown at him.
He was like actually pretty famous in France.
Yeah, famous. Okay. He was just so famous.
I actually didn't know that he was like big. I thought he was just big in like noble circles. So
oh no, like he was huge because he just attacked everything, and his works were like a bookcase.
Okay.
And he would just...
It was like super proliferated, like everybody... Okay.
And he could write wittily and angrily about anything. So he would take up any cause and just write a thing about it, and immediately it's destroyed. And then Will Durant said something like, when Rousseau said his bullshit, Voltaire turned on him the most scathing weapon of all history, the mockery of Voltaire. And then... everyone loved Voltaire, and then he was laid up in this house. And then Benjamin Franklin came with his son to have him blessed by Voltaire.
Damn.
And Voltaire blessed his son. And they were buds. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, Voltaire and Benjamin Franklin were like buddies. And
I bet Franklin was kind of jealous of him.
I know.
Because he's not as good as Voltaire.
I mean, Voltaire was actually pretty jealous of Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, but probably because Franklin was like involved in like statehood and shit.
Mostly because of his scientific exploits. Like Voltaire, I think, wished he could have done all that Ben Franklin had done, like discovering electricity and all that shit.
Okay.
And Voltaire was like, meh. But he wanted to impress Benjamin Franklin so much. And he thought clubs like Freemasons were dumb, and Benjamin Franklin said, you should join the Masons. He's like, okay. Most people said he did it just to impress Benjamin
Franklin. It's like joining a country club. It's such a like nouveau riche move where it's like, alright, I guess I'll do it.
I know.
Yeah. It's crazy going back to France. It's like the scene in fucking Denzel Washington in American Gangster when he like goes to jail and comes out in like the 90s. It's like all different. Like he just can't relate anymore. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So blesses Benji's son, and then he said I will have no deathbed conversion. So naturally, a bunch of priests took that as a challenge, and they came to him
And the first priest came, and then he said, "And who has sent you?" And he said, "Who do you represent?" And he said, "God." And Voltaire said, "Your credentials, please." And then the priest was like, and got red and left. And then
so even moments before dying, he was just roasting people.
yeah, he was just roasting. And then another priest came, and then he said, "Do you not do you renounce Satan?" And Voltaire said, "Now, this is no time to be making enemies."
Damn. God, what a cheeky bastard.
I know. And then he just died loved with all these crowds around him.
That's a happy ending then.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. For once, a guy who just... He died loved, famous, and happy. That's good.
Also, before he died, a while before he died, the emperor, the king of Russia sent him a letter. He was like, "I'm sorry about all this stuff." And he was like, he said, "You are witty, you are a genius, you are a man of letters and a man of science. In short, you would be, he would be the greatest being in the world if you were a woman." If you were only a woman.
Always Russians with
yeah.
It's always back to misogyny with those Russians. They're always like, "If you were a broad, I'd love you." Yeah, come on.
He's like, "You would be perfect if you were not a man," or something like that. Which is funny because before that, Voltaire said something to another guy. He said like the opposite. He said about the lady he was soulmates with. He said, "You would be perfect if you were a man."
Oh, I'm so gonna use that line. Like, just go on a date and be like, "Man, if only you were a guy,
Yeah,
this would be awesome.
We'd be best friends."
We'd be best friends.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, no. He said he was the best man in the world whose only fault was being a woman. Is what he said.
That's funny, man.
That was kind of an asshole, but and then also there was, I should say this because this is really funny. He was just super generous to people and nice, and he was just and until they gave him reason not to be, and then he was just the best asshole of all time.
That's a good way to be.
Yeah.
Until someone crosses you. Yeah.
A servant came to him, and then he said, he was just visiting, and Voltaire said, "Who is your master?" And he said, "This man." And Voltaire said, he is a great man, a man of many geniuses." And then the servant said, "I regret to inform you that he does not share the same admiration." And Voltaire said, "Perhaps we are both wrong."
He's like, "I take that back." Yeah. That's funny.
And yeah. So,
damn, dude, honestly, he sounds like a historical Larry David.
He was, basically.
Yeah, he's just like a salty old bastard.
He just said whatever was on his mind all the time.
He's like, I would not like to stop and chat. Oh, man. Well, hey, I'm glad we got to the end of Voltaire. He's a character. That's cool.
Yeah, he was. Oh, I wanted to talk about one.
For sure.
Couple ideas of Voltaire's.
Yeah.
Because he was the first modern historian. He was the first person to let go of all supernatural explanations for history. And he just focused on the forensics basically, but he cleared the way for Gibbon and all that.
That's cool. So like a very unspeculative guy. Like he just talks about what's actually happened.
Yeah, which
is nice. Cause I hate when people back then just got way too utopian and just got crazy with it.
I know.
Yeah.
And then Voltaire said, he was somebody said he treated the Eastern religions with the disinterestedness, so the respect of just the equality of a Martian. They said.
Really? So he was just not down with philosophers from over there.
He was he treated them all equally, and that's why they said he treated it with the disinterestedness of a Martian.
Oh, I see.
He did not hate them when everyone did.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So,
that's kind of cool. So he's been pretty open-minded.
Pretty open-minded. He didn't like Jewish people. He was not good in that way. Kind of an anti-Semite.
Well, there's always one fault. There you go.
But he
it's usually anti-Semitism.
He basically said at one point they deserve whatever they get, which is it's so
fucking... that aged well.
Oh,
good.
Yeah. Not good.
Not good. Not a good take.
Yeah. He said something horrible will happen to them, and they will deserve it or something, and it was really, really, really fucked up given history. So, and
Jeez.
People don't talk about that because they want to love Voltaire, and he was, a lovable guy if not for that one ridiculous prejudice.
Yeah.
I don't think he had any others besides that one, and that just was. It's just so surprising that was part of him.
Voltaire's like, guys, come on, my best friend's a Jew, and I hate him.
I hate him.
Yeah.
But he was also, when the Dreyfus affair happened, I think that was around that time, but he defended him And Dreyfus was a Jewish guy, and he was like, don't insult this man. There's no evidence for saying. But I don't. Yeah, but it was just a really strange time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to show, don't do that because people will find out. It'll make you look really shitty 300 years later. Yeah.
No, he was shitty in that way.
Yeah.
He was super shitty, but he did a lot for freedom of religion and liberalism, and he did a lot for, just even like acceptance of sexuality.
Yeah, it's like 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
he was pretty close. Yeah. He was in there.
4 out of 5.
Good for him.
He has this amazing essay where he talks about the soul, and he was ridiculing the idea of a soul. And he says, "Is not God capable of making autonomy?"
Oh.
And it's like, is not God capable of making just a thing that works? Why does it have to have this magic orb in the middle of it? I think that was such an
it sounds like a
idea.
bad bit that someone does. Like,
yeah.
What's this whole soul business? There's no soul. God made a perfect body. Folks, what do you think? Yeah.
I used to have like a bit kind of like that, but I just thought that was so funny. Like, why doesn't he just make like a machine that can work? Like like he made a thing that can think. Why does it have to have a?
Yeah, it's like, oh man, if only he made a perfect human body and a brain. Yeah, it's like that would be cool.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's so good.
That's hilarious.
And then he just had some beautiful ideas. But
hell yeah. Well, hey, let's wrap this up. All right. I was trying to think of a good Voltaire way to sign off. Well, hey, I think that was a pretty Candide episode.
Candide Camera.
Yeah, Candide Camera. It's just pranks. And you can do us a favor by subscribing and leaving us nice reviews. Someone left a good one that said "cum" or something in it, so thank you.
Cum.
Yeah. Well, anyway, find us on iTunes and all those places and whatever, and email us and follow us and just be our friends and just come
tell people, spread the word.
Yeah, just come hang, play PlayStation.
Yeah.
Cool. So
love you all.
Yeah, love you. Have a good day.
Bye.